You are in for a treat today. I had an amazing conversation with Paige Layle. She is an autistic adult and she wrote an amazing book, But Everyone Feels This Way: How an Autism Diagnosis Saved My Life. It was a fangirl moment for me. Paige is a trailblazer on the socials. She has almost 3 million TikTok followers and has an amazing platform also on Instagram and YouTube where she shares information about the autistic experience. She has this book. She also has a really amazing freebie about accommodations that we're going to link in the show notes. And she is just doing such amazing work and speaking on platforms. And she shares with us getting diagnosed at 15. She said when she heard that diagnosis, it was like someone said what was inside my head. It was like someone said what was inside my head. And I said, Paige, do you have any guiding words of advice if someone's listening and they think they have autism or that their child does? And she said, don't be scared. I thought that was really, really impactful. Paige is a breath of fresh air in the autism community. She has a huge platform. You know me, I like to talk about social media here. She said she doesn't like social media. I feel the same way on certain days. I can definitely relate to that. If you like this episode and episodes like this, make sure that you visit on Apple Podcasts and leave a review. I want to know that you are tuning in and that what we are listening to and sharing about here on the Autism Outreach Podcast is important and impactful. Without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Paige.
You're listening to Autism Outreach Podcast, a podcast full of ready-to-use strategies to help those with autism strengthen their communication skills. Here's your host, Rose Griffin of ABA Speech, a speech therapist and board-certified behavior analyst who shares tips you can use in your next therapy session.
Welcome to the Autism Outreach Podcast. We have a guest that I'm very excited about today. I've been batching podcasts all day. They've all been great episodes, but this one is, fangirl. I'm kind of starstruck here. We have Paige Layle with us. Thank you so much, Paige, for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation.
I was telling Paige that, a long time ago, for a long time, I really loved TikTok. It's not that I don't love it anymore. It's just that I'm putting my marketing energy into Instagram, where you also have a really
relationship.
Yeah, we have a big following. On TikTok, it's like I had a video go viral, which is awesome. And it didn't do much for my follower count and or my email list or my business. So Instagram is where my people are. But no, Paige has millions of subscribers on TikTok. And your content really resonated with me just because it's real. And I think that you do a great job of just conveying how you're feeling. And, you do have autism and you share about that. And so as a provider, that always resonates with me. So thank you so much for coming on to the show. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is you have a book. So congratulations on your new book. Very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Very cool things.
It's so cool. So the book is called But Everyone Feels This Way: How an Autism Diagnosis Saved My Life. And I've had I don't know if you know who Robin Resigno is. Do you know who that is from Awe Teach? She used to have a decent.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I don't know if you ever talked to her, but she actually was on my podcast episode 50. This is episode like 190, but and she was great. Like cool. She actually became a PhD. And I think she got diagnosed later in life. She was actually a special ed teacher, as I remember the story. And then she had a brother with autism, and then she eventually got diagnosed with autism. And she kind of shared about autism in girls, which we know is like a whole big topic. But can you tell us what inspired you to write the book?
Yeah, sure. I think so because I began on socials and on TikTok and on YouTube, etc. Well, then I went on to YouTube after. I found that after being on for a few months, I was getting so many of the same comments over and over and over again. And I'm like, this is true. There's all these 60-second clips everywhere. It's hard to compile everything together. And so I really wanted a resource, just like one big resource, everything, the main stuff that I kind of wanted to say to kind of answer everyone's questions, which was a lot about how I was diagnosed, and also a lot of like, who are you? Who are you? What are you doing? What are you up to?
Right.
So I just wanted to have this and also be able to reach more people too that the internet couldn't.
Yeah, no, I love that because some people probably want to consume your videos. It's short form content. We know people's attention spans are really short and getting
Yeah.
shorter by the day. But having the book too for other people that like really want to dig into your story or relate to your story. So, can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about like when you were diagnosed with autism? Were you diagnosed as a teen? Was it as a teenager?
Yeah, it was, I think it was like 2 weeks after my 15th birthday. So right before I went into grade 10. Well, I thought that I knew who I was, but then being told that it really wasn't, it actually wasn't that much of a shock, I guess, being told that I wasn't who I was. It was like someone said the words that were inside of my head my whole life.
Oh.
But my diagnosis was such an explanation. It was a description.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything that I had been begging and pleading for someone to explain to me, almost
Right.
like, who am I? What's
Yeah.
going on? Why is life so hard for me? That was really like my biggest question. Why am I upset all the time? Why is this so hard? Why do I hate this? And
Right.
my diagnosis was like, no, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense that you do. You're not getting any help for your literal disorder.
Right. Yeah.
So it
Yeah, that
felt
must
good.
that yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, is what a pivotal time, right? When you're in that grade. I was watching through your content more intently last night because I knew we were talking today, but
Prepping.
yes, it's prepping. One of the videos was just about school and how school had made you so anxious and how it
Yeah.
was really hard to be at school. And I think a lot of people probably really, your content really, strikes a chord with people because I feel like a lot of people feel that same way and they maybe can't convey it,
It's hard
and
to
you,
talk about it.
yeah, right.
Like,
It's
what are the
hard to
right
talk about.
words?
Yeah.
And
So
I
that's
found that that
great.
was something that's what I really like to do, and I also struggle with is I've always wanted to find the words to describe the experience, which is so difficult, and it's only made easier by connecting with people, other people online that can help too.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me, like, how did you get the idea to start with social? I mean, you're younger. You're younger than me, way younger than me. So you're in your youth. It's like the phone is like just a part of, your appendage, right? I mean, it is for
Oh
me.
yeah,
I'm
I grew
always
up with that thing.
monitoring. Yeah, I'm always trying to put myself on a behavior plan to monitor the screen time. It fails
Mhm.
sometimes. But so how did you get started with social media and like was that hard for you to share
So, you know what? My
about that?
first time on social media, I got an iPad for Christmas when I was 12. So I was in grade 7.
Yeah.
And from then on, I started to become popular on socials when I would
Oh,
post. So on,
mm,
I don't know if you ever heard of Ask FM, but I was popular on
no.
Ask FM. I gained some followers on Instagram as a
Oh.
12, 13-year-old. And I think that I went there because I didn't feel understood by my parents at all.
Yeah.
And I think that kids that don't feel understood by their parents, you know how some teachers would say and some kids would say that I wanted attention.
Yeah.
But I needed attention.
A
That's the truth.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
needed that. And so that's where I went.
Hmm.
And luckily that's where I found it. I never felt like I fit in at school. I didn't have a lot of friends. It was really hard having friends. And then going online, people agreed with me. And I shared my opinion a lot. That was my thing on
Yes.
Ask FM. I would have videos where I was like ranting about things,
Yeah.
about my opinion on bullies and whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's how I just kind of blah, 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 started. I grew up with it, right? But then I was in second year university when my roommate made me get TikTok. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of like Vine. That's cool. Vine was
Yeah.
around when I was 12, so that
I
was
do
really
know
cool.
that. I do know what
Right?
Vine
Yeah, I
was. Okay.
remember Vine. The
Yes, I
Vine. Ah,
do. I
yes.
do.
It was cool. So I'm like, this can happen. And so I had it for probably like 6 months before I posted my first autism video. Because at first I just used TikTok scrolling. I think I tried to make like some funny videos,
Right.
some that I'm
Sure.
like, I'm like, I don't know, let's do this. This is what people do.
Yeah.
And it was my first time an autism video. It was because I was mad.
Mm.
Classic Paige. I was really mad at, well, I followed a lot of people that I liked and that I admired for their like social justice work or their
Yeah.
advocacy, how they stood up for people. And then I saw a few different like influencers like this make fun of autism and make fun of autistic people and
Oh.
use like sounds that were going around that were trending, but it was like to make fun of autistic people and use autism as an insult. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I thought you guys were so cool and knew all
Yeah.
the things. And so I made a video going, okay, this doesn't fly. And I'm going to tell you why. Not just does it not fly, but it doesn't fly. And I'm autistic. And it's actually hurts my feelings. And
Wow.
then that was the first video that got a lot of views. I went to the gym and I had my phone up and it was just buzzing, 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 and it fell off. I'm
Yes.
like, what's going on? And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, people are yelling at me. They're mad at me from this video. Because that's what it
Yes.
is.
That's how it works. That's how you get the views, right? I mean, I remember I was actually at Pilates. I think the video I did was actually
Ooh.
it was a duet and it was early signs of autism and it was somebody had shared it. And so I was just sharing that because I have a lot of parents that follow my work. And I remember I post it and you check and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
it's doing okay and whatever. And
Mm.
then I wake up in the morning and my husband's like in sales. He has no clue. And I was like, oh my gosh, this video is like so many views now. Then I go to Pilates right by my house and I'm telling my instructor, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's at 950,000 views. And you could literally just
Oh,
start
no.
watching it go
Yeah.
viral. And that was like my one moment there on TikTok. But that's kind of cool. But there are a lot of people in those comments they're not like
Oh,
all great and think
no.
you're
Especially
amazing.
that first video. Holy moly.
Right. Right.
That's, I think, what pushed me though, is
Yeah.
I felt or I saw so many people not knowing anything about autism and
Yes.
just being like, who are you? You're not autistic. You don't look autistic. You don't sound autistic. You
Right.
can't be autistic. And I'm like, I'm gonna actually educate you a little bit. I'm gonna say a little bit more, actually. So, and I just kept going. And people, like anyone that got mad, I would get like, you know what? This is the logic. And
Yeah.
I gained a lot of uh followers, but
Yeah.
I don't want to say followers like numbers, but I gained a lot of I reached a lot of autistic people that were not open about being autistic. When I
Yeah.
first was talking on social media, I only followed two other like autism creators. It was
Yeah.
Dan the Aspie World, who lives in Wales,
Yeah.
who he's been doing it for like 10 years,
Yeah.
and Chloe Hayden in Australia, who's also been at it for at least like 8 years. And those are my only two autism people. And then because I knew I was autistic, so I followed them. And
Yeah.
then once I started talking and some vids started going viral,
Right.
it like cultivated so many autistic people
Right.
telling me that I helped or like this is important and
Right.
what I'm doing is good and I should keep going. And then I felt like I wasn't alone, that I
Yeah.
do it now, not just for me and not just because I want people to know, but because it's important for especially like younger kids. I
Yeah.
want them to grow up in a better place.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you're educating and as a BCP, we call it dissemination, but you're sharing. And
Yeah.
when you're online, you can share on such a larger, and you really have a large platform. So it's just nice to be able
Wow.
to share about that. And for people to like get upset with you, it's like, no, you have autism. Like you're trying to share the autistic experience and the autism
Yeah.
community and maybe be that voice for like 12-year-old you that didn't have somebody like that. So I love what you're doing.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I saw that you recently spoke at an Amazon Alexa event, which looked really amazing. So
It's
and I
great.
watched your video how, I do some public speaking in person and it's
Yeah.
nerve-wracking, right? And you're just like, what should I wear? And like there was this whole like snafu, something happened, like maybe with
Yes.
your outfit or something, and then you're like, you're frenzied like getting there, right? But then
Yeah.
it all went well. So but tell me about this event. Like where was it? Was it for Amazon employees or was it like a training or I couldn't tell. I know there were some other influencers
Yeah.
there that have autism.
So it was an Amazon Alexa and accessibility event. So
Wow.
Amazon and Alexa put it on to bring a bunch of disability advocates and influencers
Yeah.
and like journalists, whatever,
Yeah.
to talk about and see the different accessibility features that Alexa offers. So we
Oh,
got like a presentation on it, and then there was like a live interaction museum kind of we went through and got to interact with all the different things.
yeah.
And so then all of us disability advocates could I think, share the word too, and
Oh,
like say,
yes.
look, it helps for all of these things. So I was really lucky to be, I felt honored to be on there with some really
Neat.
cool people. And yeah, it was but it was in Toronto. And so
Oh,
I planned on driving to the bus station and then taking a train to
yeah,
Toronto with my friend. But then that would take an extra hour than just
yeah,
driving into Toronto. And so
right,
and we needed to get there like soon. So I'm like,
right.
I'm gonna pick you up. We're gonna go to Toronto. And then we got there, we got to the hotel, and the hotel was like, no, we do not have your room because you were supposed to come here yesterday and you did call to say you weren't gonna be here. And so we gave your room away. And I was like,
Oh,
that's it. I melt down now. This is where I melt down because I needed to like go inside, get
right.
changed, drop my stuff off, go to the thing. And so then them being like, you can't even stay here. I just lost it. But anyway, I ended up getting there. Things were okay. After I got there and relaxed and got changed into normal clothes and was where
Yeah,
I needed to be, things were fine.
that's a lot. But you want to tell the people like, do you know why I'm here? Like, I'm on this panel and like this is this huge event and
Oh, it was tough. And I knew like it was so many different people that, I was just like, oh, if I could just call Jeffrey Bezos right now and if he would know about this money he's spending on this hotel, like,
right,
oh, he would lose his mind.
exactly. Oh my
But it's
gosh.
like not Jeffrey Bezos at
Right.
all. So
Yes.
I'm like, and the clerk at the desk was like probably my age, and she
Right.
felt so bad when I started crying, and I knew like some
Yeah.
guy ran over to me with a water bottle, and I'm like, I know, I'm not gonna yell at anybody because
Well, it's
this
upsetting.
sucks for
I
everybody
mean,
involved.
yeah, it's upsetting because you're not in your
Hard.
home. Like one time this past year
Yeah.
I did a keynote. It was really the neatest thing ever. And it was during April, Autism Acceptance Month. And
Nice.
I fly out of state, like get on two planes, get to
Ooh.
the hotel, and they don't have my reservation.
Ugh.
And so I call the guy and he was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. Give me the lady and I'll give her my credit card and this whole thing. I had been talking with him and they paid me and all this, but I'm just
Yeah.
like, it's
Unexpected.
stressful. Yeah, it's unexpected. And it just, yeah, ruins your day. Well, good. I'm glad you
Throws you
rallied.
off.
You had the event. That sounds really neat. And
Mhm.
is this kind of like, is this your work now? Like, your platform and the book and all the things. This is what you're doing. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
awesome.
I
That's
started when I
amazing.
was starting like TikToking and whatever,
Yeah.
I was doing lash extensions
Oh my
and
gosh.
I
Okay.
loved that. I did it for a long time. Even looking back, I'm like, that was a good job. It was so repetitive. It was so
Yeah.
perfect for my autism. It was perfect.
Yes.
But then it really that led me to being home a lot. And I had all these opportunities that were popping up for me to go places, to
Yeah.
take time away,
Right.
and I couldn't do that with clients. And so I think it was January 2023 where I officially
Oh.
was like, I'm doing this full time. And
Wow.
so I do a lot of content creation, and that includes like brand sponsorships
Yeah.
sometimes, but my primary source of income is public speaking and
Oh.
consulting. I love going to schools. That's probably
Oh.
my favorite thing, is going to schools, talking to
Yeah.
kids and
Yeah.
explaining like things about autism. But I also love yeah, going to companies, talking about how we can accommodate autistic people in the workplace,
Right.
and yeah, autism training things.
That's awesome.
I
Okay,
really
that's really cool to know. Somebody else who has autism I met on TikTok. He had a viral TikTok. I don't know if you know him. Is Dr. Carrie Magro. Have you ever met him or heard of him?
I maybe if
Okay.
I saw it on paper, I could maybe remember the
Yeah.
spelling and link it.
Yeah, he was on episode 42, but he had a viral TikTok that it was like him when he was younger, and they said he was not going to speak. And then, now he's gone on, he's got his PhD, and he too, like, he presents and gives trainings and was like a
Mhm.
consultant for a big show, about autism and stuff. So I
Oh,
think that's awesome because there's so many people who I kind of cringe when other people are like, I'm going to do this training all about autism, but nobody with autism is really involved,
ugh,
in the
mhm.
training. And I mean, I do try to share about speech therapy and those types of things because as providers, we need
Absolutely.
courses to keep our licensure up
Yes.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I kind of cringe when people that don't have autism are talking about things where I think somebody with autism needs to be involved. So I think that that's
Yeah.
really great. And you're getting exposure at these different events. I
Mhm.
know, like when you go to those events and then you take all the pictures or the reels, then that just leads to more speaking engagements and it just
Right.
feeds into it. Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
amazing that you're
good.
doing that. Very cool.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people listening who think they may have autism or that their child may have autism? I think sometimes parents listen to my podcast and they think, maybe my child has a speech delay, or, my child might have some social things that make me think maybe they have autism. Do you have any advice for somebody? Because I know you were diagnosed, it seems, maybe a bit later than you would have liked, or, maybe it would have been helpful to be diagnosed earlier.
Yeah. I would say don't be scared. I think that
Yeah.
that's the natural reaction, is to be afraid of the unknown because it's
Mm-hmm.
unknown. And often, I mean, parents don't get taught much about children, let alone atypical children.
Right.
So if you suspect anything like about yourself or your child, know that whatever information that you get is only going to help you. It's only going to make things better and easier for both of you, for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Being diagnosed earlier would have helped me in a lot of ways.
Right.
And because it would have helped me in a lot of ways, it also would have helped my relationship with my parents,
Yeah.
how my household looked, which I know
Mm-hmm.
can be sometimes difficult with an autistic child, like managing all of the relationships in the household, as
Mm-hmm.
it was for me.
Yeah.
So I recommend just knowing as much as you can with an open heart.
Yeah, I love that so much. One last question is, as an autistic adult, I feel like I just had somebody else on the podcast who has a podcast called The Autism Dad, and he has 3 kids who are autistic and he's
Wow.
raising them
Uh-huh.
and talks about autism. But one of the things we were talking about is like 15 years ago, or, I've been in the field 20 years, there were absolutely like, there were no podcasts, like
Yep.
social media didn't
Right?
exist. So there
Mhm.
wasn't any information, right? Unless you went to something in person. But now I feel like there's so much information.
Mm.
Do you have any guidelines that are like helpful for navigating
Nope.
that
Such a
information?
good
It sounds like
question.
on TikTok you had those people that you kind of liked, and then they made something. This happens to me sometimes, and they'll make
Mhm.
something, and I'm like, oh, there used to be a TikTok sound about that,
Yep.
like, so and so, I really liked her, like it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I liked you. Like, what happened? I didn't think that was going to come out of your mouth. But I just can imagine that it's hard to navigate. It's just hard to navigate social media. Do you have any like tips or strategies for anybody regarding that?
Absolutely. Such a good question. I think that I don't like social media personally because I find it's hard to find anything that's really, I don't know, that I really, really like. It's
Yeah.
hard to know who somebody is. It's hard to know where they're coming from. Like 90% of the time it's fake. And so my number one thing navigating social media, don't believe anything you see. If you see
Right.
something, just go, okay, that's them. That's their reality. That's their thoughts.
Yeah.
If it sticks with you and is your reality and your thoughts too, that's great.
Hmm.
But you can also look up other places too. I would recommend look at lots of different sources, and especially look at sources from people that don't look like you too.
Yeah. Right.
Like diversify your feed and don't take everything too seriously too, because there's also a lot of autistic people, and this is something that I want to advocate for too as an autistic person.
Yeah.
Not all autistic people want to be advocates, and we don't all need to be looked at as advocates.
Hmm.
And there is autistic people that will joke about themselves or will say things as to connect with another autistic person. Does anyone else experience this? And it's their real life autistic experience, but it may
Right.
not be the autistic experience.
Right.
So remembering that every autistic person is so different and everyone's opinions are just from their own perspective, however they've lived.
I love that. Love that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell us what are you the same Instagram handle and TikTok handle, or is
I
it different?
am.
Okay.
It's at Paige Layle, except on YouTube, I'm at real Paige Layle because I think someone stole me
Oh,
at Paige Layle, right? So I'm the real one on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Paige Layle.
nice. What are you
My
doing on
website,
YouTube? I haven't
pagelay.ca.
looked at your
Oh,
YouTube
it's the
yet. What?
same thing. I
Oh,
do just
shorts.
longer TikToks.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you do. Okay. Okay. I'll have
I
to check
should
that
do
out.
more shorts, but I really, my YouTube, I'm a big yapper. So that's where I go for my rants usually. My big,
Oh.
like, hey, this is my thought. Yeah. Fun. And it
Awesome.
also pays me. So that's nice.
Yes. Okay. I
Mhm.
love that. I need to set that. I'm getting like a sense, but I do have to like verify a couple things, and that's on my to-do. There's always something, right? When you have the online business and the speaking and the consulting and you have a really great assistant. I was talking with her. It's yeah, it's a
awesome.
whole thing to get all that situated. Well, thank you
So
so
good.
much for coming on the show. Your book again, But Everyone Feels This Way: How an Autism Diagnosis Saved My Life. And you have a really great freebie as well with different accommodations that you can download for free. So definitely check that out. I will put the link for your website and your socials in our show notes. And it was great to connect. Thank you so much, Paige, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you, and I can't wait to listen to this when it comes out. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening to me. Oh yeah, find me on socials if you like it.
Oh yeah.
Yay.
Thanks for listening to Autism Outreach. If you enjoyed the show today, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode full of actionable strategies you can use in your therapy room. Write a review too. That would mean so much to me. I always love hearing from you. Have a specific topic that you want included on a future show? Reach out over on Instagram, ABA Speech by Rose, or visit me at www.abaspeech.org.